If you told me a year ago that my best friend would end up in my bed whispering the words, "Can we try something?" after one too many drinks, I would have laughed in your face. But here we are. Let me back up. It started out like any other Friday night. Me and Jason, my best friend since high school, hanging out at my place, killing a case of beer while playing FIFA and talking trash. We'd done this 100 times before. It was our thing. I'd come out to him back in college, and he took it like a champ. Didn't even blink. Just tossed a chip at me and said, "Cool, more girls for me." That's just who he was. Easygoing, confident, very straight. He had a new girl every month and never stayed serious with any of them. Not because he was a jerk, he just didn't seem to care enough to commit. Said he liked keeping things simple. We'd always had a chill friendship. Close, yeah, but not weird, close. He never acted uncomfortable around me, never questioned anything. He was the kind of friend who'd call me at 2 a.m. because he accidentally sent a shirtless selfie to the wrong person and needed damage control. That kind of thing. So when he showed up at my apartment looking a little too excited for our usual beer and FIFA night, I didn't think much of it. He dropped onto the couch, kicked his shoes off, and cracked open a can like he'd been waiting all day for it. "You good?" I asked, tossing him a controller. He nodded, taking a long sip. "Yeah, just needed to not think for a while." We played for a couple of hours. He got progressively worse at the game and progressively more talkative, which was my first clue that he was drinking faster than usual. Around midnight, he paused the game, looked over at me, and said something that immediately made me sit up straight. "You ever wonder," he said, slow and deliberate, "what it's like to, have a close with a dude?" I blinked. "Is this a setup for a joke?" He shook his head, expression dead serious. "Nah, just asking." I stared at him for a second, unsure what to do with that question. "Why? You thinking about switching teams?" Jason laughed, rubbing the back of his neck. "No, I don't think so. I don't know. I'm just curious, I guess." Now, Jason had said a lot of dumb stuff while drunk, but this was new. "Curious about what exactly?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. He shifted on the couch, leaning back and staring at the ceiling like he was doing math in his head. It's not like I've never thought about it. Like, I've been with a bunch of girls, and it's fine, fun, whatever. But, I don't know. Lately, I've been wondering if maybe I'm missing something. I raised an eyebrow. "And you decided to bring this up now?" He shrugged. "Felt like the right time." We sat in silence for a minute. My heart was pounding, not because I thought something was about to happen, but because I had no idea what was going on in his head. Then he looked at me, eyes a little glassy but still clear enough to know he wasn't blackout drunk. "If I wanted to try something," he said slowly. "Like, not all the way, just something small. Would you be cool with that?" I opened my mouth, then closed it again. "Because what the hell do you say to that?" "Jason," I said, voice low, "you're drunk." "I know," he said, not missing a beat. "But I'm not that drunk. I've thought about this sober too. I just didn't have the guts to say it until now." Another long pause. I felt the tension building between us like a static charge. "You trust me, right?" he asked. "Yeah," I said cautiously. "Then help me out. Just show me what it's like. No pressure, just curiosity." And just like that, the air in the room shifted. The game was still paused on the screen. A half-empty beer can sat between us, and my best friend was asking me to cross a line we'd never even approached before. I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, I'd thought about this too. I should have said no. I should have laughed it off, changed the subject, offered him water, told him to crash on the couch like usual. But instead, I sat there, feeling my heartbeat thudding against my ribs like it wanted out. Jason didn't say anything else. He just looked at me, quiet, unreadable, way more serious than I'd ever seen him before. That same guy who once dared me to streak through a snowstorm in college now sat across from me, asking me to help him cross a boundary I didn't even know he saw. "I'm not trying to mess with you," he said finally, voice low. This isn't a joke. I'm not trying to prove something or screw around. I need to know. I studied his face for any sign of hesitation, mockery, whatever. But there was none, just Jason, flushed from the alcohol, nerves flickering behind his eyes. You're not gonna wake up tomorrow and regret this? I asked quietly. I don't know, he admitted, but I'll regret not doing it more. That hit different. I ran a hand through my hair, standing up just a pace. I didn't want to screw up our friendship. I didn't want him to wake up and freak out and ruin what we had. But I also couldn't lie and say I hadn't imagined something like this. Maybe not exactly like this, but close. I turned back to him. Okay, so what are you asking for? Like, what does trying something mean to you? Jason's ears went red. He laughed, rubbed his hands over his face. I don't know, man. I didn't make a list. I'm not looking for a full-on hookup. I guess I want to know what it's like to be touched by a guy. Just once. Just to know. I swallowed. That's a lot to ask. I know, he said, standing too now, a little unsteady, but clearly not out of it. And you don't have to. But if you're cool with it, I'd really trust you with it. That last part was what did it. The idea that he trusted me. That he felt safe enough with me to ask for something he probably couldn't say out loud to anyone else. I nodded once. All right, but we go slow. And if you change your mind at any point, we stop. Yeah, he breathed. Of course. Okay, I said, quieter now. Then come here. He took a step closer. We were inches apart. I could smell the beer on his breath, the faint hint of his cologne that had always made my chest tighten, for reasons I tried to ignore. Can I touch you? I asked. Jason nodded. I reached out, slowly, giving him time to pull away. My hand brushed his chest, right over his t-shirt. I felt him shiver under it, like the contact was brand new, like he hadn't expected it to feel like anything. He didn't pull back, so I moved a little closer, letting my hand slide to his shoulder. His skin was warm, his body tense but not resisting. I watched his eyes as I moved my hand up to the side of his neck, then down, just exploring the weight of him, the shape I'd seen 100 times before but never touched like this. Jason's breath caught. That already feels different. Different good? I asked. I don't know yet, he said, but not bad. We stood there like that for a while, him letting me touch, me trying not to let my brain spiral. I wasn't trying to push anything. I was just letting it be what it was, him figuring something out, and me trying not to lose my mind about it. Then he said, "Can I try something?" I froze. What do you mean? I mean, can I touch you back? Yeah, I said, heart pounding. You can. Jason lifted his hand, unsure, hovering near my chest like he was afraid he'd mess it up. Then he placed it there, fingers light and hesitant. His brow furrowed, like he was trying to translate a language he didn't speak. This is weird, he admitted. I know, but it's not bad. No, I agreed. It's not. He looked up at me again. This time, his eyes weren't nervous, just searching. Curious. I always thought, if I ever did this, it would feel wrong, he said, but it doesn't. We were still standing close, barely touching, barely breathing. And all I could think was, this was the moment. This was the edge. And whatever happened next would change everything. The moment stretched out, strange and silent, with Jason's hand still resting lightly on my chest. His eyes stayed locked on mine, flicking back and forth like he was scanning for something. Permission, maybe, or just some kind of sign that he wasn't screwing this up. Do you want me to stop? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't even hesitate. No. Jason exhaled, like he'd been holding that question in his lungs all night. He moved a little closer, our bodies almost brushing now. Not in a casual way, not like the accidental shoulder bumps we'd had 1,000 times before. This was deliberate, intentional. His hand slid up slightly, fingers grazing the base of my neck, and I felt my skin tighten under his touch. I didn't think this would feel so intense, he said. It doesn't always, I replied, trying to steady my voice. But sometimes it does, especially if it means something. He nodded slowly, like he was filing that away for later. Then, quietly, and does this mean something? I swallowed hard. It might. Jason looked down, like that answer hit harder than he expected. I don't know what I'm doing, he said. I feel like I'm standing at the edge of a cliff and trying to decide if I should jump. You don't have to jump, I told him. You can step back any time. He nodded again but didn't move away. His hand lingered on my neck and then, so slowly I barely noticed it happening, his thumb brushed against my jaw. I want to try something else, he said, voice low. I knew what he meant. Okay, I said. And then he kissed me. It wasn't confident or practiced. It was hesitant and warm and just a little clumsy, like someone who had thought about this but had no idea what it would actually feel like. His lips were soft, dry from the beer, and he tasted like breath mints and nerves. I didn't rush it. I let him lead, let him figure it out in his own time. And when he pulled back a few seconds later, he looked at me like he couldn't believe what just happened. That wasn't what I expected, he murmured. I tried to smile. Good or bad? Different, he said. But good, I think. He sat back down on the couch suddenly, like his legs couldn't quite hold him up anymore. I sat beside him, close but not touching, giving him space to process. He rubbed his hands over his face again. This is crazy. Yeah, I agreed, but not bad crazy. Jason turned to look at me again. His face was flushed, not just from the alcohol anymore. There was something else, like his brain had gone full tilt and he couldn't slow it down. I don't want to lead you on, he said. I don't know what this means for me. I still like girls. I don't think I'm like you. That's okay, I said calmly. I'm not asking you to be anything. You asked for a safe place to try something, and I gave it to you. That's it. But it's not nothing, he said quickly. What we just did, it wasn't nothing. I didn't say anything. I let him sit in that moment, let him figure out what he wanted to do with it. Then, after a long silence, he asked, "Can we do more?" My stomach flipped. Are you sure? I asked. No, he admitted, but I want to be. The weight of those 5 words, but I want to be, settled into the room like a fog. Jason leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands laced together like he was waiting for something to collapse. Maybe himself. I don't know what's wrong with me, he muttered, staring at the floor. I've never felt this confused before. There's nothing wrong with you, I said. You're not broken. He gave a small, disbelieving laugh. I've been straight my whole life, man. Like, locker room, girls on Tinder, never thought twice about it. But now, you touch me, and it's like... He paused, searching for the words. Like I've been lying to myself about something I didn't know I was lying about. That hit harder than I expected. I leaned back, letting him have the moment, resisting every urge to reach for him again. You don't have to figure it all out tonight, I said gently. He looked over at me, eyes a little glassy, not crying, not even close, but you could tell he was overwhelmed. I'm scared that I'll like it, he said quietly. That's the part that messes me up. I didn't answer right away, because honestly, I got it. I remembered what it was like to feel that fear, to feel something new tugging at you, and not knowing if it meant the life you'd been living was all just a costume. You can like it and still not know what it means, I finally said. Liking something doesn't rewrite your whole life. It just means you're human. Jason nodded slowly, like he was taking that in. I don't want to use you, he said. I'm not trying to make you some kind of test. I shook my head. I know, and you're not. You were honest. That's more than a lot of people would be. There was a long pause, the kind where the air feels heavier than it should. Then he stood up. You said we could do more, he said. I want that, but only if you still want to. I got up too. I want to, but only if you're not going to hate yourself in the morning. I won't, he said firmly. I swear. I stepped closer to him, letting our shoulders touch. Then take your time. He reached for me, this time less hesitant, and his hand found the hem of my shirt, fingers brushing bare skin like he was testing out a new sense. I could feel the tension humming through him like static. "Can I kiss you again?" he asked. "You don't have to ask every time," I said, smiling a little. "But yeah, please." This kiss was different, slower, less nervous. His hands moved up my sides, holding me like he was starting to understand how it was supposed to feel. I didn't push, just let him lead, let him figure out his own rhythm. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine, breathing shallow. "This is messing me up," he whispered. "I know, but I don't want it to stop." "It doesn't have to." His fingers slipped under the back of my shirt, dragging lightly over my skin. Not grabbing, not groping, just exploring. Like he was learning a language he'd always been afraid to speak. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded against me. "More than okay." Then, almost like an afterthought, he whispered something that I don't think he meant for me to hear. "You feel better than any of them." My breath caught. "Jason," I said quietly, "you don't have to pretend this is nothing." "I'm not," he said, pulling back to look me in the eyes. "That's what scares me." We didn't rush it. I thought maybe he would come in hard, fast, like trying to rip a band-aid off. But he didn't. Jason was slow, thoughtful even. Every touch came with hesitation, but not fear. More like he was watching himself from the outside, stunned by what his own hands were doing. We moved from the living room to my bedroom without saying anything. It wasn't planned. It just happened, like gravity had taken over and neither of us wanted to fight it. I sat on the edge of the bed. He stood in front of me, shirt slightly wrinkled, hair a mess, eyes burning with something I hadn't seen in him before. "You sure?" I asked one last time. He nodded. "I've never been more confused or more sure." I tried to smile. "That's a hell of a combination." Jason chuckled softly, then leaned down to kiss me again, longer this time with a hand resting on my jaw like he was anchoring himself there. His body pressed into mine and I felt it then, how real it was. The tension, the arousal. It wasn't just mine, it was his too. I could feel the way he moved, how his hands started to roam without pulling away, how his breath hitched when I slid my hands up under his shirt. He let me pull it over his head, didn't say a word, just looked at me like he was still trying to catch up to his own body. "I don't know what I'm doing," he admitted again. "You're doing fine," I said. "There's no wrong way to be curious." Jason climbed onto the bed beside me, half laughing, half shaking his head. "I can't believe this is happening." "Me either." He looked over at me, then at the ceiling. "What does this make me?" I paused. "Right now, just a guy in my bed." "That's it?" I nodded. "That's it." Jason let out a breath like he needed that simplicity. "Okay, I can work with that." We didn't do anything extreme, nothing heavy or rushed. It was touching, exploring, a slow drift into unfamiliar waters. He'd brush his hand across my stomach and watch my reaction. I'd trace the side of his chest and feel him shiver. It was tender, intentional, more emotional than physical even. There was a moment, his head resting against my shoulder, his fingers laced with mine, where he whispered, "I don't feel wrong." "I told you you wouldn't," I said quietly. He looked up at me, eyes searching. "Is this how it feels when you're with someone? Like this connected?" "Sometimes," I said, "when it's real." He nodded, letting that sink in. Then, "I get it now." Those words sat with me. I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't need to. Eventually, we lay back against the pillows, the room dim and quiet, our bodies closed but not tangled. The buzz from earlier had faded, but the softness in the air hadn't. Jason turned his head toward me. "So what happens now?" I shrugged gently. "Whatever you want to happen." I don't want to go back to pretending nothing happened. Then don't. But I don't know what I am, he said. And I don't want to hurt you if I figure out I'm not like you. I rolled onto my side to face him. Jason, you don't owe me a label. You don't owe me anything except honesty. I can give you that. Then we're good. He reached out, thumb brushing over my knuckles. So we're not calling this a one-time thing? I smiled. Only if you want to. He didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, let's just see where this goes. The morning after was what I had secretly feared and weirdly hoped for. I woke up first. The sunlight filtered through the blinds in soft slits, casting golden stripes across the room. Jason was still asleep, lying on his side with his arm loosely draped over my waist like it belonged there. His hair was a mess, his breathing slow, and his face was relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. For a moment, I didn't move, just watched him. Tried to memorize how it felt to have him this close, unsure if I'd ever get this again. But then he stirred. His arm flexed slightly as he blinked awake, disoriented at first, then confused, then calm. I braced myself for the panic, the regret, the "what the hell did I do?" speech. But it didn't come, he just looked at me. "Morning," I said quietly. "Hey," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. A beat passed. Then two. His gaze dropped to where his hand still rested against me. "Oh," he said softly, not pulling away. "Yeah," I said. Another beat. Then, that wasn't a dream, right?" "Nope." Jason didn't flinch. He just let out a slow breath and said, Okay. He nodded. "I'm not freaking out. That's surprising. That makes two of us." He sat up slightly, rubbing the back of his neck. "I keep expecting to feel guilt or shame or something, but I don't. I feel weirdly good. Confused, but not in a bad way." I sat up too, giving him a little space. "You don't have to figure everything out right now." He looked at me, eyes softer now. "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." He watched me for a long moment, then leaned forward, resting his forehead against mine. "Thanks for not making this weird." "I thought this was weird." Jason laughed, actually laughed, and that sound cut through the tension like sunlight. We spent most of that morning just existing. No pressure, no talk of labels, just making coffee, eating leftover pizza, trading lazy glances when we thought the other wasn't looking. It felt oddly domestic, and a part of me liked it too much. It wasn't until later, when he was tying his shoes by the door, that things got heavy again. "I should probably head home," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. I nodded. "Yeah, of course," but I could see the hesitation in his hands, the way he fidgeted with his keys like he was trying to stall. Then, he finally looked at me. "So we good?" "We're good," I said, even though part of me already missed him. Jason lingered for another second, then stepped forward and hugged me. Not the usual bro hug we used to do, but a real one. Firm, honest, long enough to mean something. When he pulled back, he looked at me with a strange mix of relief and nervousness. "Can I text you later?" he asked. "Of course." "Cool." He paused. "Because I don't think this was just a drunk thing." My chest tightened. "No?" He shook his head. "I don't know what it was, but I liked it. And I kinda want to know what it could be." There it was, the thing I didn't dare hope for, wrapped in that shy smile of his. Jason opened the door, stepped into the hall, then turned back one last time. "Whatever this is, I don't want it to end." Neither did I. Jason didn't text me later. He called. It was barely 4 p.m. when his name lit up my screen, and the second I answered, I could hear it. His nerves. His voice had that same tightness it got when he was gearing up for something big. Like back in high school, before football tryouts. Or when he told his dad he was dropping out of engineering to switch to design. "Hey," he said, "can we talk?" "Sure," I said. "You okay?" "I think so. Can I come over?" 10 minutes later, he was at my door. Same hoodie he'd worn the night before, hair messier than usual, but his eyes, they were clear, focused. He didn't wait to sit down. Didn't even really wait to breathe. I can't stop thinking about last night, he said. Like, I went home and I thought it would feel like a mistake, but it didn't. I laid in bed and everything felt lighter, like I'd finally stopped lying to myself. I didn't say anything, just let him talk. He sat on the edge of my couch, fidgeting with a loose thread on his sleeve. I always figured I was just super straight. I've never questioned it. I liked girls, still do. But last night, being with you, it didn't feel confusing. It felt right. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, trying not to let my hope get ahead of me. I keep hearing your voice in my head, he continued, telling me I don't need a label, that this can just be what it is. It can, I said softly. Jason looked up at me. But I don't think I want that. Not entirely, I blinked. What do you mean? He took a deep breath. I think I want to see what this is. Like, really see, not just an experiment, not just curiosity. I don't know what it makes me. Bi? Pan? I don't care. I just know I want more of this. With you. It hit me then, how far he'd come in 24 hours. From tentative touches and whispered questions to sitting here in my living room, choosing to say this out loud, stone sober. He stood and walked over, stopping just in front of me. I can't promise I won't screw up, he said. I'm gonna overthink. I'm probably gonna say dumb stuff, but I wanna try. My throat tightened. You sure? I've never been more unsure about anything, he said, but I've also never been more drawn to something. Then he stepped forward, and before I could say anything, he kissed me again. This one wasn't hesitant. It wasn't exploratory. It was deliberate, warm, like a yes. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. You're not just someone I trust, he whispered. You're someone I want. My heart was thudding in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. Then don't call it an experiment anymore. I won't, he said. From now on, it's something real. We spent the rest of the day like that. Talking, kissing, sitting close, figuring things out not through big declarations, but small steps. He asked questions about me, about what it's like to feel attraction to more than one gender, about the things I liked, the things I feared. I answered honestly, and he listened. Jason stayed the night again. This time, it wasn't complicated or loaded. We just curled up, legs tangled under the blanket, hands resting together, breaths falling into the same rhythm. And just before he drifted off, he murmured, "This feels more real than anything I've ever had." So did I. It's been 3 months since that night. 3 months since Jason showed up on my couch with too much beer in his system and too much on his mind. Since he kissed me like it was something he wasn't supposed to want, but clearly did. I still remember how unsure everything felt the next morning. How the smallest touch between us carried 1,000 unspoken questions. But day by day, those questions turned into conversations. And those conversations slowly became something else entirely. We're not using labels. Not yet. Jason isn't calling himself anything, and I'm not asking him to. We're just figuring it out, together, one step at a time. Some nights, he still overthinks it. I'll catch him staring off, chewing his lip, clearly wrestling with something in his head. When I ask, he usually just shrugs and says, "Still learning the language." I get it. I've been fluent in this for a while. But he's picking it up faster than he thinks. Other nights, he's different. Bolder. Playful in ways I never thought I'd see from him, stealing kisses in the hallway, grabbing my hand when we're out, falling asleep on my chest like he doesn't have a care in the world. It's not perfect. We've had awkward moments, a few tense ones. There was a night he pulled away during a movie, went quiet, and didn't say much until we were in bed. I got in my own head, he admitted. Thought about what people would say, about how my dad would look at me if he knew. I didn't push, just held his hand and said, "We're not doing this for them," and eventually he nodded. I know. I just forget sometimes. But even with the doubt, the hesitation, the slow unraveling of everything he thought he knew, he's still here. Every morning when I wake up and see him scrolling through his phone in my bed, or making coffee shirtless like he's always belonged in my apartment, I realized something. This wasn't just a phase. This wasn't a one-time drunk mistake. He didn't come over that night because he wanted to experiment. He came over because he already trusted me more than anyone. Because he needed someone to let him be unsure without making him feel ashamed. And yeah, maybe it started with curiosity. But what we have now, it's not built on confusion. It's built on moments. Quiet, steady ones. Like when he says, "You hungry?" and we order 2 pizzas because we can never agree on toppings. Like when he falls asleep with his arm wrapped around me and mutters something about me stealing the blanket. Like when he calls me babe on accident and blushes so hard I pretend not to notice, just so he'll say it again. This is something. Maybe the start of everything. One night we were lying in bed and I asked, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if we hadn't gotten drunk that night?" Jason grinned, half asleep. "Yeah, I'd probably still be pretending not to stare at you." I laughed. "You were that obvious?" "Oh, definitely." We fell asleep with our legs tangled, hearts full, both of us knowing that whatever this was, it wasn't an experiment anymore. It was real. And it was just beginning.